Hi. So another topic I want to talk about very briefly is the NHS, and there's a lot of nonsense being slung out there in the media by both sides actually, but particularly with Labour talking about privatising the NHS because of trade deals. Quite frankly, nobody wants to privatise the NHS. It's an essential service, and it's one that I've heavily relied upon. My father passed away actually just after Christmas last year. And, I, was a carer for him. He had very serious health issues, one of which was vascular dementia, chronic kidney disease. He had a couple of heart attacks and strokes, and it's very challenging looking after him, outside of, hospital treatment. So it's something I'm very familiar with from a patient perspective, and I'll talk more about that and write more about that over the campaign. But one of the things we've got to do is stop politicising in a false way what's happening to the NHS. It's an essential service, and no party wants to lose that service. It's key to this country. Anyway, what we do need to do is have an honest conversation about the issues so that we can improve it. And I've been speaking to a lot of people. We've actually got doctors and nurses who are running as candidates in other constituencies. But I've also been speaking to other people, from a patient care perspective who are inside the NHS, who've got their viewpoints about what we can do to improve it. So before I do that, I just want to speak to Brian first and kind of give you an indication of his own personal experience, because I don't think it's out of the ordinary in terms of what he is getting from the NHS and his issues. And then I'll go and speak to Barbara to talk about what she's learned over a career about the NHS and what needs to be done to improve it.
Right, yes, in February time, earlier part of this year, I wasn't feeling well, so attempted to get an appointment at the doctor's. Unfortunately, couldn't get through. They advised me that if there's any problem, go to A&E. So I went to A&E and did all the usual tests, and you name it. They then said, you need to have a scan because there is a possibility of a TI, which is a stroke, a mini stroke. And after various conversations and whatever, it was then found that I'd got a vitamin B12 deficiency, which required injections, one a week for 3 weeks, and then another one then every 3 months. Unfortunately, as time went on and feeling not better, and then September, October time, didn't feel at all well. I then attempted to contact my doctor after spending 35 minutes on the telephone and just having to give it up in the finish. I don't know if that's applicable to all doctor's surgeries around the country or not, or is it just applicable to ours or not? I don't know. So I contacted our local pharmacy, who gave me an injection, so to have done on an emergency one. I then went to Upney Hospital, the drop-in centre, to get the injection done. Sorry, we can't do that because we didn't prescribe it. Oh, well, all I want is an injection, I said. No, you can't do it. I'd say prior to that, I made an appointment. I tried to get an appointment with a nurse, and it turned out it was some 3 to 4 weeks before I could get an appointment, which I didn't think I was going to make it that long. So I went to the surgery and said that I explained the situation to them. This is face to face, and they said, if you'd like to sit and wait, and we'll see what we can do. Within 5 minutes, go up to room 6 or whatever. Lo and behold, there's the nurse. Nobody else seemed to be waiting, so she did the injection, and then I got a telephone call from the doctor saying that before you have this injection, you need to have another blood test. What happened then is that the paperwork for that injection is still in the surgery. I haven't bothered to get it because what's the point? Because it's going to show that I'm not deficient, because I'm topped up. I need to be going in 3 months' time to see how it goes. And that's it. That's as far as I'm going back.
So, I mean, what you're saying, Brian, seems to be like common with what I've been talking to a lot of people about, and that's, I think, one is, I'll summarise it and tell me if you think this is fair. One is you're wasting an awful lot of time on the telephone,
Yes.
right? Two is there's a lack of coordination and communication between different doctors, surgeries, or hospitals or health centres.
Yes.
Third, and because of that, there's a lack of understanding about your full history because the paperwork's not being shared properly.
That's
In this day and age of high tech communication,
Yes.
we're suffering from old paper problems.
Yes.
And fundamentally, that puts you at risk because you're waiting, very long periods of time, weeks on end,
Yes.
just to get something very simple administered.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, the challenge for all of us, whatever your political background is, and I'm not going to politicize this, whoever's in power needs to take a micromanagement perspective and really dig into the NHS organisation.
I would say they want to get it by the throat
and
give it a good shake.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So I don't want to say Labour this, Tory this, Brexit Party this. Whoever's in power needs to take this seriously and push it forward.
Yes.
Barbara, hi there.
Hi.
So we spoke, briefly, and obviously you speak as someone who used to be inside the NHS.
Yeah.
What are some of the issues the big issues that you think we need to look at? And I've written an article. We've spoken together, so people can go onto my website and have a look at that in terms of getting your viewpoints on there directly. But just in a nutshell, a few things that you think we need to kind of focus on, just to give a flavour.
You need to look very closely at PPI, which was brought in by Tony Blair, because money is going out to private companies and private, don't tell me that the privatisation will be the Tories. It was the Labour Party that privatised the health service, or did the most of the privatisation. Excuse me, I'm going to put my glasses up and see. That's firstly important. You need to look at where the funding's going. You need to micromanage, if you like, the health service, drag it into the 21st century from the 18th century. You need, that's the first thing. Second thing is you need to serve the public. You need to look at what the public needs to be looked after, and get rid of targets, because that's just ridiculous.
Why are targets ridiculous?
Well, okay, the only way that you get the health service to work properly in with targets would be to get patients to get ill Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You can't have that working that way. It doesn't work that way. People get sick when they get sick. And they don't get sick in alphabetical order either, which is annoying.
Yeah.
You need them to get sick in alphabetical order.
Terrible patients not conforming with the paperwork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't gear the health service to the needs of the patient.
And that's what we've got to focus on, right?
Absolutely.
Patient care and patient need. Yeah. And you mentioned about money going to the private sector.
Yes.
And one thing, I strongly believe in. I strongly believe in trade deals for this reason. And this is from the perspective of what I've seen with my dad. I think it's fundamentally important that we get access from drugs from all over the world that hit the standards that meet our standards, and equipment as well as supplies more generally. Because this can save a lot of cost for the NHS, by ensuring we still have access to high quality treatment. And in some cases, we don't have access to that from the EU markets. No. So we've got to look elsewhere anyway. What's your views on that?
Well, first and foremost, the drug companies ripped the NHS off, and they have done for the last 30 years.
In what way?
Because they overcharge the NHS. Drugs are available to outside people at a lesser price.
How are they getting away with that?
Because it's difficult to explain, but there's in the NHS, in fact my son would be better to explain it because he understands it, but there's a standard procedure which was put in to ensure that no one was fiddling, if you like. But it means that they say you can only buy drugs from certain companies.
Right, okay.
Right. I'm not very good at explaining it, but it means that you can only buy drugs from certain companies. So therefore, you know, for instance, if you're going to buy your stationery, well, you can only buy it for WH Smiths.
Right.
WH Smiths know this, so they double the price to you because
Right.
they know you can't. There's no way you can buy from other people. It's not allowed
Yeah.
within the region. What you should be doing is looking at the best price for the same thing.
Yep.
So your writing paper, for instance, it's the same writing paper. It's A4. It's this. It's the weight, the quality, and everything. Okay, fine. Who can supply it to me the cheapest?
Yep. Let me just quickly jump in there. One thing I want to clarify. Now, we're not the WH Smith example is not an actual example. It's just something off the top of Barbara's head. The point is, certain companies, and we're not naming names here. We've got to look and investigate at prices at the very least, and look at how we can increase and improve the supply chain to the NHS. That's the big point here that Barbara's making.
Yes, I mean the Trump thing. My understanding of the Trump thing is that he said, okay, we can supply you with these drugs cheaper than you can buy them locally. He's not trying to rip the NHS off. He's trying to help the NHS by... Sorry, you have to edit that.
No, that's fine. We'll leave it in there.
He's trying to say, we can help you because we can supply those drugs at a cheaper rate than you're paying.
Yeah.
Now.
I mean, look, here's how I look at it. Like, you know, not everyone's the biggest Trump fan, but let's be honest. Trump, his job as the leader of the United States is to look after US interests first.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean that's going against UK interests. What we've got to do in any trade deal is be smart in our negotiations, work out what we need and work out what works both from a US perspective, but also from our perspective, a UK perspective. Yes. If it doesn't work for us, we won't deal on those issues.
No.
And that's the point.
And in Trump's defence, I'm not going to get into any of his private personal life, but you've got to remember, he's not a career politician. He's a businessman, a successful businessman, and he works by doing deals. He works by doing deals. That's the way he works. He's a businessman. He's not a career politician.
And look, I think the overall message to kind of sign off on is going back to a point I made about micromanaging the NHS.
That's
well,
right.
Doing a much deeper analysis in terms of reforming it, improving it.
Unpick it and put it back together again. It's over the last 71 years, because me and the NHS are the same age.
Yeah.
Over the last 71 years, it's got layer upon layer upon layer of bureaucracy. Give me the NHS for 3 months, I'll sort it.
Brilliant. If I get in power, I'll give it to you to sort it.
Thank you, I will.
Thanks, Barbara. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.